Captain Jake Morrison stared at the main screen of the UES horizon as colors swirled around them. The jump drive had been working for 3 minutes now. It's longer than any test run back on Earth. His hands gripped the armrests of his command chair as the ship shook and rattled. "How much longer, Lisa?" he called to his chief engineer. Lisa Carter looked up from her control panel, sweat on her forehead. "Should be any second now, Captain." "The readings are getting stable." The horizon was humanity's first real deep space ship. It carried 500 people to start a new colony far from Earth. Jake had trained for this mission for 10 years. He knew every bolt and wire on this ship, but right now he felt like a child lost in the dark. The colors stopped swirling. Space appeared on the screen again, black and full of stars. But something was wrong. These stars looked different from the ones they had left behind. "Where are we?" asked Dr. Amy Brooks from her science station. She was the ship's communication expert and spoke 12 Earth languages. Now she was trying to make sense of readings that made no sense at all. "I'm getting massive energy signatures," said Carl Stone from his intelligence post. His job was to watch for dangers, and right now his equipment was going crazy. "Multiple ships, Captain. Really big ones." Jake stood up. Through the main screen, he could see lights moving in the distance. As they got closer, the lights became shapes. Ships, huge ships that looked nothing like anything humans had ever built. "My God," whispered Lisa. "Those things are the size of cities." Ships were fighting. Bright beams of energy shot between them. Explosions lit up the darkness. Some ships looked like they were made of crystal and light. Others were dark and twisted, like they had grown instead of being built. "We need to get out of here," said Commander Rick Walsh. He was in charge of the ship's small group of Marines. 20 soldiers to protect 500 people. This is a war zone. But before Jake could give orders, alarms started ringing all over the ship. The main screen lit up with warnings. "They've seen us," Carl said, his voice tight. "Are turning toward us. Try to contact them," Jake ordered Amy. "Tell them we're peaceful." Amy's fingers flew over her controls. She tried every frequency, every signal type humans knew. "I'm broadcasting on all channels, Captain. Telling them we mean no harm." The crystal ships moved like dancers, smooth and graceful. The dark ships moved like hunters, fast and deadly. Both groups were coming straight for the horizon. "They're not listening," Amy said. "Or they don't understand. Maybe they think we're with the other side," suggested Dr. Brooks. The first energy beam missed the horizon by less than a mile. It came from one of the crystal ships. The beam was so bright it hurt to look at. "Shields up," Jake shouted. "We don't have shields like that," Lisa called back. "Our technology isn't built for this kind of fight." A second beam came from the dark ships. This one was different, more like acid than light. It ate through space itself, leaving a hole in reality that slowly closed. "Take us away from here," Jake ordered pilot Kate Morgan. "Best speed." Kate's hands danced over her controls. The horizon turned and started to run. But the alien ships were faster. Much faster. "They're gaining on us," Kate said. Both groups. More energy beams shot past them. Some came close enough to make the ship shake. In the distance, the alien fleets kept fighting each other, but they had sent smaller groups to chase the humans. "Why are they both attacking us?" Amy wondered out loud. "Maybe they think we're spies," said Carl. "Or maybe they just shoot first and ask questions later." A beam hit the horizon's rear section. The ship bucked like a wild horse. Lights went out all over the bridge. "Hull breach in Section 7, reported Ben Torres from engineering. "I'm sealing it now." "We can't take many more hits like that," Lisa warned. Jake's mind raced. They couldn't outrun the aliens, couldn't fight them with normal weapons. But maybe they could do something the aliens wouldn't expect. "Ben," he called to the young engineer, "can you make our shield generators work backwards?" "What do you mean, Captain?" "Instead of keeping energy out, can you make them push energy away from us?" Ben thought for a moment. "That's crazy enough that it might work." "Give me 2 minutes. Kate, fly us into that asteroid field," Jake ordered, pointing at a cluster of rocks ahead of them. "Sir, that's dangerous. One wrong move, and we'll crash." The aliens won't expect us to hide in there. Maybe we can use the rocks to our advantage. Kate nodded and changed course. The Horizon dove toward the asteroids like a fish swimming into coral. Behind them, the alien ships followed, but more carefully. "Got it?" Ben shouted. "Shield generators are reversed, but I don't know how long they'll hold." An energy beam from a crystal ship hit them again. This time, instead of hurting the Horizon, the beam bounced away and struck an asteroid. The rock exploded in a shower of light and stone. "It worked," Lisa laughed. "We're using their own weapons against them." More beams came at them. Each one bounced off and hit something else. The asteroids around them started exploding like fireworks. The alien ships had to dodge the flying rocks. They're confused. Carl reported, "Both groups are slowing down." "Good," Jake said. "Amy, try to contact them again. Maybe now they'll listen." But before Amy could send a message, something new appeared on the screen. A third group of ships, different from the others. These ships looked like they were built for trade, not war. "Captain," Amy said, excitement in her voice. "I'm getting a signal from those new ships. They're trying to talk to us. Put it through." A strange voice filled the bridge, spoke in broken English, like someone learning the language from old. "Books? Human ship? You are in great danger here. We are Nexari. We wish to help." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all scared but trying not to show it. They had come to the stars looking for a new home. Instead, they had found a war that had been going on longer than human civilization. "Send them a reply," Jake told Amy. "Tell them we accept their help." As the Horizon followed the Nexar ships away from the battle, Jake wondered what they had gotten themselves into. Behind them, the crystal ships and dark ships went back to fighting each other. But he had the feeling this wasn't over. The war had been going on for thousands of years. Humans were part of it, whether they wanted to be or not. And somehow, Jake knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The Nexari trading station looked like a giant metal flower floating in space. Its arms stretched out in all directions, covered with docking bays and market halls. Ships from dozens of different species came and went, like busy insects. "Captain." Jake Morrison walked beside Vex High, the Nexari elder who had saved them from the battle. The alien looked like a tall, thin person covered in blue scales. His forearms moved constantly as he talked, pointing at different things in the busy marketplace. "Your people are very lucky to be alive," Vexa said in his strange accent. "The Zelari and Korthok have been fighting for 3,000 of your years. They shoot first and never ask questions." 3,000 years? Dr. Amy Brooks walked on Jake's other side, her eyes wide. "How is that possible?" "Zelari think honor is more important than victory," Vexai explained. "They fight the same way their fathers and grandfathers fought. The Korthok are controlled by one mind. Their queen, she thinks the same thoughts she has always thought. Neither side learns new ways to fight." They passed a weapons shop where a 6-armed merchant was selling energy rifles to a group of crystal-skinned beings. The weapons looked like they had been made centuries ago and never changed. "We make good money selling to both sides," Vexahai continued. "They buy the same weapons, the same ships, the same everything. The war never ends, so we never run out of customers." Helen Gray, the Horizon's diplomatic officer, frowned at this. "You profit from their war?" "Someone always profits from war," Vexhai said with a shrug of all 4 shoulders. "Better us than someone who might make it worse." Back on the Horizon, Chief Intelligence Officer Carl Stone was studying everything they had recorded about the battle. The data filled his screens like a puzzle with too many pieces. "Look at this," he called to Chief Engineer Lisa Carter. "The crystal ships, the Zelari, they always attack from the same angles, always use the same formations. It's like they're following a rule book." Lisa leaned over his shoulder to look at the data. "And the dark ships?" "The Korthok are different, but just as predictable. They swarm like insects, but the swarm always moves the same way. If you know the pattern, you know what they'll do next." "That's crazy," Lisa said. "In a real fight, you change tactics. You adapt. That's what makes us different," Carl realized. "We change. They don't." Like in the medical bay, Dr. Rose Taylor was treating injuries from their escape. Most were minor cuts and bruises, but she was worried about something else. "We can't keep running," she told Jake when he came to check on the wounded. "We have 500 people on this ship. Families, children. They came here to build a new life, not to fight in someone else's war." Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. "What do you suggest?" "Need to understand what we're dealing with," Rose said. "Maybe we can find a way to make peace." That evening, Jake called a meeting with his senior officers. They gathered in the ship's main conference room around a table that had been built for planning colony layouts, not military strategies. "We have a choice," Jake began. "We can try to find a way home, or we can stay and see if we can help end this war." "Help end a war that's been going on for 3,000 years? Commander Rick Walsh shook his head. "Captain, we have 20 Marines and some mining equipment. We're not an army. But we have something they don't," Amy said quietly. "We can think in new ways." Helen nodded. "I spoke with some of the other species here at the station. Everyone is tired of this war. The Zelari lose thousands of soldiers every year following their honor codes. The Korthok Queen sacrifices millions of her children for small victories, but neither side knows how to stop." "What about the Nexari?" asked Lisa. "Why don't they?" "Help! They make too much money from the war," Carl answered. "Peace would be bad for business." Jake stood and walked to the window that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the war was still going on. Ships were fighting and dying while they sat here talking. "There's something else," Amy said. She had been quiet during most of the meeting. "I've been listening to communications from both sides. The Zelari have a group of commanders who are questioning their old ways. And there are rumors that some Korthok are thinking for themselves instead of just following the Queen's mind." "Rebels?" Rick asked. "Maybe. Or just people who are tired of fighting." Jake turned back to his officers. "If there are people on both sides who want peace, maybe we can help them find it." "How?" Lisa wanted to know. "By showing them something new," Jake said. "Both sides fight the same old way because it's all they know. But we know different ways to fight. Different ways to think about problems." Over the next few days, Jake made contact with the Zelari commander Amy had mentioned. His name was Thelvas, and he agreed to meet secretly on the Nexori station. Thelvas was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal. He wore armor covered in symbols that told the story of battles won and lost. When he spoke, his voice was deep and sad. "I've fought the Korthok for 200 years, he told Jake. "I have seen entire worlds burned to ash. My own son died following the old ways of honor. But if we change, if we fight differently, we are no longer Zelari." "What if changing is the only way to survive?" Jake asked. "Then perhaps it is time to learn what survival means." Jake also made contact with one of the rebel Korthok. This was much harder and more dangerous. The creature called itself Sharpclaw, and it spoke in a whisper through secret channels. "The Queen Mind grows old and tired," Sharpclaw said. "Her thoughts become circles that go nowhere. Some of us remember what it was like to think our own thoughts. We hide these memories deep where she cannot find them." "What do you want?" Jake asked. "To choose our own path, to live without the Queen's voice in our heads, to be free." As Jake learned more about both sides, he began to see possibilities. The Zelari were brave and honorable, but trapped by tradition. Korthok were efficient and organized, but enslaved by their Queen's mind. Both sides had strengths that could be used in new ways. "I have an idea," he told his officers during another meeting. "But it's dangerous." "Everything we've done since we got here has been dangerous," Rick pointed out. "What if we could show both sides a new way to fight? Not to win the war, but to end it?" "How?" Helen asked. "By working together? Humans with Zelari. Humans with free Korthok. Show them that cooperation works better than the old ways." Lisa frowned. "The Zelari and Korthok hate each other. They won't work together." "They might if we prove it works first," Jake said. "We start small, help each side win a small battle using new tactics. Then, when they trust us, we bring them." Together, Carl looked up from his data screens. "It could work, but if we're wrong, we'll make enemies of everyone." Jake looked around the table at his friends and officers. They had come to the stars as explorers and colonists. Now they were talking about changing the course of a galactic war. "Are we sure about this?" he asked. "No," Amy said. "But doing nothing means the war goes on forever. Maybe it's time someone tried something different." Jake nodded. The decision was made. Humanity would not just watch this ancient war continue. They would find a way to end it, or die trying. The first test came 3 weeks after Jake's meeting with Felvas. The Zellery commander had agreed to let humans help with a small attack on a Korthok supply base. But he was not sure this was a good idea. "My soldiers have fought with honor for generations," Felvas told Jake as they stood in the command center of his ship. "They know how to face the enemy with courage and strength." "I'm not asking them to give up their courage," Jake replied. "I'm asking them to use it in a smarter way." The Zellery ship was beautiful, but strange. Everything was made of crystal and metal that glowed with soft light. The soldiers wore armor that looked like it was grown rather than made. They moved with grace and dignity. But Jake could see they were confused by the human plan. Lieutenant Sam Davis stood before a group of Zellery warriors, trying to explain human tactics. Sam was young, but smart, and he had studied every battle the Zellery had ever fought. "You always attack from the front," Sam explained, pointing to a holographic display of the enemy base. "The Korthak know this. They put all their defenses facing forward, waiting for you." "It is honorable to face one's enemy directly," said a Zellery warrior named Kareth. "To attack from behind is cowardly." "What if attacking from behind saves the lives of your friends?" Sam asked. "Is it more honorable to be brave or to be smart?" The Zellery warriors looked at each other. This was a question they had never considered. Meanwhile, Chief Weapons Officer Tony Price was working with Zellery engineers to modify their weapons. The Zellery energy rifles were powerful but simple. They fired straight beams of light that could cut through almost anything. "What if we make the beams change direction?" Tony suggested. "Like this." He showed them a design for a rifle that could fire around corners. The beam would bounce off mirrors and hit targets that were hiding behind walls. "This is possible," said the Zellery engineer, Arantel. "But why would we need such a thing?" "'Cause sometimes the best way to win is to hit the enemy where they don't expect it," Tony explained. Back on the horizon, communications specialist Nancy Bell was working on a different kind of weapon. She had been studying the way Korthok talk to each other through their hive mind. "They share thoughts like we share words," she told Dr. Amy Brooks. "But what if we could put the wrong thoughts into their network?" "You mean lie to them?" "Not lie exactly. More like give them too much information. Confuse them." Nancy had created a device that could send false signals to the Korthok network. It would make them think there were enemies everywhere, or that their friends were actually enemies. The attack on the supply base began at dawn. But instead of charging straight ahead like always, the Zellery forces split into 3 groups. Group attacked from the front, as expected. The second group went around to the side. The third group, led by Sam Davis, attacked from behind. The Korthok defenders were ready for the front attack. Their bioweapons and acid cannons were all pointed forward. But when the side attack came, they were caught off guard. And when Sam's group hit them from behind, they panicked. "It's working," Felvas said, amazement in his voice. "The enemy doesn't know which way to face." But the real surprise came when Nancy activated her confusion device. The Korthok soldiers suddenly stopped fighting each other and started fighting their own weapons. They thought their biocannons were enemies trying to attack them. "What is happening to them?" asked Kareth. "They can't tell friend from enemy anymore," Sam explained. "Their own minds are working against them." The battle, that should have taken hours, was over in minutes. The supply base was captured with almost no Zellery casualties. For the first time in centuries, the Zellery had won a complete victory against the Korthok. "This is impossible," Felvas whispered. "We have never fought this way before." "You have," Jake said, and it worked. Word of the victory spread quickly through the Zellery fleet. Soon, other commanders were asking to learn these new human tactics. But Jake was also working with the other side, through secret channels. He'd been talking with Sharpclaw and other free-thinking Korthok. They were planning their own rebellion against the Queen Mind. She grows angry, Sharpclaw reported. The loss of the supply base has made her focus her attention on the humans. She sends her best hunters to find you. Let her come, Jake said. We're ready. The Queen Mind's hunters were different from regular Korthok soldiers. They were bigger, faster, and smarter. They could think for themselves when needed. They were completely loyal to the Queen, and they were heading straight for the next Sori. Station, we need to leave, Vexhai told Jake urgently. The Queen's hunters will destroy this station to get to you. No, Jake said. We're not running anymore. Instead, Jake called together every ally he had made. Thelvas brought his most trusted warriors. Sharpclaw brought a group of rebel Korthok who had broken free from the Queen's control. Even some of the Nexari agreed to help, though they were scared. This is madness, Thelva said when he saw Korthok warriors standing beside his own soldiers. We cannot fight alongside our enemies. They're not your enemies anymore, Jake explained. Your enemy is the war itself. These Korthok want peace, just like you do. The battle for the Nexari station was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zalari and Korthok fought side by side, using human tactics and modified weapons. When the Queen's hunters arrived, they found themselves facing something they could not understand. The hunters were used to fighting, Zalari honor guards who attacked in straight lines. They were used to fighting mindless Korthok swarms that followed. Simple patterns, but this was different. This was chaos that had purpose. Human-trained Zelari soldiers used cover and moved in small groups. Rebel Korthok used their natural speed and strength in new ways, working together instead of just following orders. And the humans themselves fought with a combination of technology and tactics that confused everyone. Engineer Ben Torres had rigged the station's power systems to work as weapons. When the hunters tried to board the station, they got hit by energy blasts from the walls themselves. Pilot Kate Morgan flew her fighter ship through the station's corridors, something that should have been impossible. She used the tight spaces to her advantage, hitting the hunters from directions they couldn't defend against. The battle was fierce, but short. When it was over, the Queen's best hunters were defeated or captured. And for the first time in 3,000 years, Zelari and Korthok had fought together instead of against each other. We did it, Thelva said, looking around at the mixed group of warriors. We actually did it. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere in deep space, the Queen Mind was feeling something she had never felt before. Fear.
She was
starting to understand that the humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something new, something that could change everything. She'll come for us now, Sharpclaw warned. All of us. She'll sacrifice everything to stop what we've started. Then we'd better be ready, Jake said, because this war is about to get much bigger. In the distance, space itself began to change. The Queen Mind was preparing something terrible, something that would either end the war forever or destroy everyone trying to change it. The real battle was yet to come. The Queen Mind's rage could be felt across 17 star systems. Her scream echoed through the minds of billions of Korthok, making them writhe in pain and fury. She had ruled for 10,000 years, and no one had ever made her feel afraid. Until now? She is consuming her own children, Sharpclaw reported to Jake, his voice shaking with horror. Millions of drones, warriors, even her precious egg layers. She feeds them to her bioforges to create something new. Something terrible. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the newly formed Alliance fleet. Around him, Zalari crystal ships floated beside converted Korthok biovessels and human ships that had been built from salvaged parts. It was the strangest fleet in galactic history. How long do we have? Jake asked. Days, maybe hours, Sharpclaw replied. The thing she creates will be like nothing we have faced. It will have the strength of 1,000 Korthok, the intelligence of the Queen herself, and the ability to adapt to any weapon we use against it. Admiral Susan Wright, who had been promoted to lead the combined fleet, studied the tactical displays. She was new to space combat, but she learned fast. Can't fight something like that with conventional weapons. And we don't fight it conventionally, Jake said. We do what humans do best, improvise. Across the fleet, human engineers worked with alien scientists to create new weapons and defenses. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter had become something of a legend among the Zelari. They called her the Harmony Maker because she could make different technologies work together. Zelari energy systems are pure but limited, she explained to her mixed team of human and alien engineers. The Korthok biotechnology is adaptable but unstable. But if we combine them, she showed them her latest creation, a weapon that used Zelari energy to power Korthok biocomponents. The result was a beam that could change its properties mid-flight, becoming whatever was needed to penetrate enemy defenses. "It's beautiful," whispered Arantel, the Zelari engineer. "Like music made from light and life." Meanwhile, Dr. Amy Brooks was working on an even stranger project. She had been studying the way the Queen Mind controlled her subjects, and she had an idea that terrified and excited her at the same time. What if we could turn the Queen's own network against her? She asked her team. Not just confuse it, but actually take control of it? "That's impossible," said one of the rebel Korthok. "The Queen Mind is too strong. She would crush any mind that tried to challenge her." "What about a lot of minds working together?" Amy suggested. "Human Zelari and Free Korthok all linked through our communication systems. Not trying to replace the Queen, but to give her subjects a choice." The idea was dangerous beyond measure. If it failed, the Queen could use their own network to destroy them from the inside. But if it worked, it could free billions of enslaved minds. As the Alliance fleet prepared for the coming battle, strange reports began reaching them from across the galaxy. The Queen's superorganism was not just powerful, it was changing the very nature of space around it. "Reality bends near the creature," reported Dr. Lynn Foster, the fleet's chief astronomer. "Stars dim, planets drift from their orbits, and space itself seems to scream." "It's not just a weapon," realized Carl Stone, who had been studying the intelligence reports. "It's a living nightmare that breaks the laws of physics." The first encounter came sooner than expected. Superorganism emerged from the Queen's home system like a dark star, surrounded by a swarm of regular Korthok ships that looked tiny beside it. "My God," whispered pilot Kate Morgan from her fighter cockpit. "It's the size of a moon." The creature was a writhing mass of biotechnology and dark energy. It had no fixed shape, constantly changing as it moved through space. Eyes the size of cities opened and closed along its surface, and tentacles longer than starships reached out to grab anything that came too close. "All ships, attack Formation 7, Admiral Wright ordered. Remember, we're not trying to destroy it. We're trying to distract it while Amy's team works." The battle that followed was like nothing in galactic history. The Alliance fleet scattered into small groups, each one attacking from a different direction. They used every trick the humans had taught them: hit-and-run tactics, coordinated strikes, and weapons that changed their properties without warning. The superorganism was powerful, but it was also confused. It had been created to fight the old kind of war, where enemies attacked in predictable patterns. This chaotic swarm of mixed ships using impossible tactics was something it could not understand. "It's working," Admiral Wright reported. "The creature is focusing on our attacks." "Amy, are you ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be," Amy replied from the communication center. Around her, human technicians worked alongside Zelari mystics and Free Korthok rebels. They had created a network that connected thousands of minds across the fleet. "Beginning the broadcast now," Amy announced. The message went out on every frequency, in every language, to every Korthok mind in the galaxy. It was not a command or an order. It was simply a choice. "You do not have to obey," the message said. "You can think your own thoughts. You can choose your own path. You are free." The effect was immediate and terrifying. Across the galaxy, Korthok soldiers stopped fighting. Some fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the sudden silence in their minds. Others looked around in wonder, seeing the world through their own eyes for the first time. The superorganism screamed, a sound that could be heard across star systems. Its queen component was feeling something impossible her children were choosing to leave her. "It's working," Sharpclaw shouted with joy. "They're breaking free, millions of them." But the Queen Mind was not finished. In her fury, she began to consume the superorganism itself, making it smaller but more deadly. The creature that emerged from this transformation was no longer the size of a moon. but it was infinitely more dangerous. She's made it pure, Amy. Realized with horror, pure hate, pure hunger, pure destruction, nothing else matters to it now. The new creature shot toward Earth like a bullet of living darkness. It no longer cared about the war or the galaxy. It wanted only to destroy the humans who had taken her children from her. "She's going for our home," Jake said, his face pale. "Everyone we left behind." Admiral Wright made a decision that would be remembered for generations. All ships, maximum speed, were going to Earth. The chase across the galaxy became a desperate race. The Alliance fleet pushed their ships beyond safe limits, using every trick and modification they had learned. Behind them, the creature of pure hatred followed, leaving dead stars in its wake. "We won't make it in time," reported Chief Navigator Matt Johnson. "The creature is too fast." "Then we make our stand here," Jake decided. Between the monster and Earth, final battle began in the emptiness between star systems. The Alliance fleet formed a wall of ships between the creature and humanity's home. They knew they could not win, but they would buy Earth time to prepare. "This is it," Admiral Wright announced to the fleet. "Whatever happens, we've shown the galaxy that enemies can become friends. That's worth fighting for." The creature struck like a living storm, tearing through the fleet's defenses. Ships died in moments, their crews vaporized by dark energy. But for every ship that fell, 2 more took its place. Zalari Korthok, human, and Nexari fought together against the thing that would destroy them all. And then, just when all seemed lost, something impossible happened. The dead stars the creature had passed began to shine again. The freed Korthok across the galaxy had found a new purpose. They were coming to help. "Look," Amy whispered, pointing at the long-range sensors. "They're all coming, every free mind in the galaxy." The creature suddenly found itself surrounded by a fleet of 10,000 ships. Former slaves stood beside their former masters, united. Against the embodiment of tyranny itself, the real battle was about to begin. 10,000 ships surrounded the creature of hatred, but it did not care. The Queen Mind's final creation had only one thought: destroy the humans who had stolen her children. It pushed through the fleet like a dark wind, tearing apart any ship that got too close. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the horizon. His brave pilots from 3 different species threw their lives away trying to slow the monster down. Each explosion lit up space for a moment, then faded to darkness. "We're not even scratching it," Admiral Susan Wright reported from her command ship. "Our weapons pass right through it, 'cause it's not really there," Dr. Amy Brooks realized. She had been studying the creature's energy patterns. It exists between dimensions. That's why nothing can touch it. The creature reached Earth's solar system and paused. For a moment, Jake thought it might have changed its mind. Then he understood. It was feeding on the fear of Earth's 8 billion people, growing stronger before the final attack. "There has to be a way to stop it," said Chief Engineer Lisa Carter. She had been working for days without sleep, trying to find a solution. "Everything has a weakness." "What if the weakness isn't in the creature?" suggested Dr. Lynn Foster. "What if it's in the Queen Mind herself?" She pointed to her readings. "The creature is connected to her through quantum entanglement. She's controlling it from thousands of light years away. But that connection goes both ways." Amy's eyes went wide. "If we could send something back through that connection, we could hit the Queen directly," Jake finished. "But what could we send that would matter to something that powerful?" The answer came from Sharpclaw, the rebel Korthok who had become humanity's first alien friend. "Not a weapon," he said quietly. "A gift." "What kind of gift?" "The gift you gave to all of us. Choice, freedom, the knowledge that we don't have to be what someone else wants us to be." Amy understood first. We send her the Freedom Network. Force. Her to experience what her children felt when they broke free. Show her what she's been denying them for 10,000 years. "That could kill her," warned Thelvas. "A mind that has never been alone, suddenly cut off from everything it has ever known." "Or it could save her," Jake said. "Maybe the Queen isn't evil. Maybe she's just been afraid of being alone for so long that she forgot how to let others be free. It was the most dangerous plan they had ever attempted. They would have to get close enough to the creature to establish a quantum link, then send the entire Freedom Network directly into the Queen Mind's consciousness. If it failed, Earth would die. If it succeeded, they might free the most powerful mind in the galaxy. "I'll do it," Jake said. "It was my idea to get involved in this war. I should be the one to end it." "No," Amy said firmly. "This needs to be done by someone who understands communication. Someone who can make the Queen see that freedom isn't something to be feared." She was already preparing her equipment. Around her, technicians from all three species worked together to create a communication device that could survive contact with the creature. "Amy, this is suicide," Jake protested. "Maybe," she admitted, "but someone has to try. And if it works, it will be worth it." The final approach began with Amy's modified fighter ship flying directly toward the creature. Behind her, the combined fleet created a corridor of cover fire. Not trying to hurt the monster, but simply keeping it distracted. The creature noticed her small ship and reached out with tentacles of dark energy. But just as they touched her fighter, Amy activated the quantum transmitter. The connection was instant and overwhelming. Amy felt her mind touch something vast and ancient and terribly lonely. The Queen Mind had been alone for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to be a single person instead of a collective consciousness. "You don't have to control everyone," Amy whispered through the link. "You can be yourself and still be loved." For a moment, the Queen Mind recoiled. The idea was too strange, too frightening. But then Amy showed her something wonderful. She shared the feeling of watching her children grow up and make their own choices. The pride of seeing someone you care about succeed on their own. The joy of friendship freely given instead of forced obedience. The Queen Mind had never felt anything like it. For 10,000 years, she had known only the fear of being abandoned, the terror of being alone. Amy showed her that being alone was not the same as being lonely, that you could be one person among many and still matter. The creature of hatred began to change. The dark energy that made it so terrible started to fade. For the first time, the Queen Mind allowed herself to feel doubt, to question whether her way had been right. "My children," she whispered through the quantum link. "What have I done to my children?" Across the galaxy, every Korthok felt their queen's pain and confusion. But instead of rushing back to comfort her, they did something unprecedented. They forgave her. The messages came from thousands of worlds. Former drones and warriors and egglayers, all speaking with their own voices for the first time. They told their queen that they still loved her, but they also wanted to love themselves. They wanted to make their own mistakes and their own triumphs. The creature of hatred collapsed into itself, becoming smaller and smaller until it was just a ship. Inside that ship was the Queen Mind, no longer a vast intelligence controlling billions, but a single frightened person who had forgotten how to be anything else. "I don't know how to be alone," she admitted to Amy. "You're not alone," Amy replied. "You have children who love you. You have a galaxy full of people who could be your friends, and you have us." The war ended not with a great battle, but with a simple choice. The Queen Mind chose to trust instead of control. She chose to love instead of possess. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy was at peace. Jake stood on the observation deck of the newly built Unity Station, watching ships from dozens of species come and go in friendship. Instead of war, former enemies worked side by side, building something new together. "Did we do the right thing?" asked Amy, who stood beside him. "I think so," she said. "Look at what they're building together. Look at what's possible when people are free to choose." Below them, human children played with young Zalari and baby Korthok in the station's gardens. They spoke a mixture of languages and thought, in ways none of their parents could have imagined. Admiral Wright approached them with a communication. "Tablet, we're getting requests from other galaxies," she reported. "They've heard about what happened here. They want to learn about these new ways of thinking." Jake smiled. Humanity had left Earth looking for a new home. Instead, they had found a new purpose. They were no longer just explorers or colonists. They were teachers, showing the universe that differences could be strengths, that enemies could become friends, and that freedom was worth fighting for. "Set course for the next galaxy," he told Wright. Let's see who else needs to learn that war doesn't have to last forever. As the Unity fleet prepared for its next journey, the three species worked together as they never had before. The Zalari brought their honor and their beautiful technology. The Korthok brought their adaptability and their tireless work ethic. And the humans brought their greatest gift, the knowledge that every person, no matter how different, deserved. The chance to choose their own destiny. The galaxy was no longer in shambles. It was building something new, something better than what had come before. And at the center of it all was the simple truth that humanity had brought to the stars, that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that understanding was mightier than weapons, and that freedom was the greatest gift anyone could give or receive. The war was over. The future had begun.